The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the voices of 100 different species. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zalani Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes as he watched the latest applicant species present their case for membership. The humans, as they call themselves, stood at the center of the chamber, looking remarkably unremarkable. Esteemed council members, the human delegate began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation matrix. I am Ambassador Sarah Chun, representing the United Earth Alliance. We come before you seeking membership in this great galactic community. Kethvar exchanged glances with the Thorian representative beside him. The humans looked so ordinary. No natural armor like the Krogans, no advanced biotechnology like the Mycelians, no psychic abilities like his own people. They were just bipedal mammals with basic technology that had barely managed to achieve faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Tell us, Ambassador Chun, rumbled the ancient voice of High Counselor Vexthera, a being so old that crystalline formations had begun growing from her carapace. What does humanity offer the Council? What makes your species worthy of membership among the stars? Sarah Chun straightened her shoulders. We offer our determination, our adaptability, and our willingness to learn from our fellow sapient beings. Humanity has faced extinction-level events on our homeworld and survived. We've built a peaceful global government after centuries of warfare. We believe our perspective could contribute to the Council's mission of galactic harmony. A ripple of what passed for laughter among the assembled aliens filled the chamber. The Corvani delegate, a towering insectoid creature, clicked his mandibles dismissively. Determination? Adaptability? These are not unique traits. Every species that reaches the stars possesses these qualities. What practical skills do you bring to the galactic community? Our military forces have successfully defended our system against 3 separate pirate incursions, Chen replied, maintaining her diplomatic composure despite the obvious skepticism in the room. This time the laughter was more pronounced. Admiral Zarketh of the Hegemony Fleet leaned forward in his biomechanical throne. Your military? We've reviewed your combat records, humans. Your technology is primitive, your strategies are inefficient, and your weapons are laughably outdated. You defeated pirates only because they were using equipment even more primitive than your own. Kethvar nodded in agreement. The human military records made for amusing reading. They still used projectile weapons when most civilized species had moved to plasma technology millennia ago. Their ships relied on chemical propulsion for maneuvering when gravitic drives were standard across the galaxy. Most tellingly, they seemed to place enormous emphasis on individual soldiers when modern warfare was clearly the domain of artificial intelligence and automated systems. Furthermore, Admiral Zarketh continued, your species shows a disturbing tendency toward individual heroics rather than proper military discipline. We've observed your historical records. Your soldiers regularly disobey orders to pursue personal glory. Your commanders make tactical decisions based on emotion rather than logic. And your entire military philosophy seems built around the ridiculous notion that a single individual can somehow change the course of a battle. Ambassador Chen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but her voice remained steady. With respect, Admiral, perhaps our different approach to warfare reflects our different values. We believe that the individual soldier, properly trained and motivated, can indeed make a significant difference. Preposterous, snorted the Valdorian representative. Modern warfare is about numbers, technology, and coordination. A single being, no matter how skilled, is meaningless against proper military might. This primitive thinking only confirms that humanity is not ready for galactic membership. High Counselor Vexthera raised one of her multiple arms for silence. The Council will deliberate on humanity's application. However, given the concerns raised about your military capabilities and strategic thinking, we believe a practical demonstration might be educational. Chun straightened. What kind of demonstration, High Counselor? There is a situation that has been troubling the Council for some months, Vexthera explained. The Marauder clans of the Chaos Sector have established a base on the planet Zirian Prime. They've been raiding shipping lanes and terrorizing civilian populations. Multiple Council fleets have attempted to dislodge them, but their position is well fortified, and they've proven surprisingly resilient. Admiral Zarketh's expression suggested he was enjoying himself. Perhaps humanity would care to demonstrate their unique military philosophy? A single human military unit against an entrenched enemy position. If they succeed, we'll consider their application more favorably. The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what was being offered. An impossible mission designed to humiliate the humans and justify their rejection from the Council. The Marauders were fierce fighters with stolen Council technology. They'd already defeated 3 separate military operations by established Council races. Chen looked around the chamber, reading the expectations in dozens of alien faces. What are the parameters of this mission? Simple, Admiral Zarketh replied. 1 human military unit of your choosing. You may use your own equipment and tactics. Your objective is to eliminate the Marauder leadership and destroy their operational capability on Zirian Prime. You have 72 standard hours. And if we succeed, then perhaps we have underestimated humanity's potential, Vextheros said diplomatically, though her tone suggested she considered this outcome highly unlikely. Shin nodded slowly. I'll need to contact Earth Command to select our representative unit. Of course. Take all the time you need, the Admiral said magnanimously. I'm sure your military leaders will want to choose their very best warriors for such an important demonstration. As the session adjourned, Kethvar found himself almost feeling sorry for the humans. They seemed earnest enough, and their diplomatic representative had handled herself well under pressure. But sending a single human unit against an entrenched Marauder stronghold, it was essentially a death sentence dressed up as a military exercise. The Marauders weren't just random pirates. They were the descendants of the Kresh Empire's elite shock troops, warriors bred for combat, and enhanced with stolen biotechnology. Their leader, Warlord Thakmor, had never been defeated in personal combat and commanded over 3,000 hardened fighters. The Zirian Prime Base was a former Council research station that had been converted into a fortress, complete with energy shields, automated defenses, and underground tunnel networks. 3 separate Council military operations had failed to take the position. The hegemony had sent 500 of their finest cyber-enhanced soldiers and lost half of them before retreating. The Thorian Empire's assault mechs had been destroyed by hidden anti-vehicle weapons before they could breach the outer perimeter. Even the Zalani psychic warriors had been repelled by some form of mental shielding the Marauders had acquired. And now a single human unit was supposed to accomplish what thousands of the galaxy's best soldiers had failed to achieve. Kethvar watched Ambassador Chun as she activated her communication device to contact Earth. There was something in her expression that puzzled him. He'd expected to see resignation or despair, the look of someone who knew they were being set up for failure. Instead, she seemed almost confident. Perhaps it was simple human ignorance. Maybe they didn't truly understand what they were up against. Or perhaps this was another example of that individual heroic mentality Admiral Zarketh had mocked. Either way, Kethvar found himself curious to see what kind of unit Earth would send. He suspected the humans would choose their largest, most heavily armed soldiers. That would be the logical response from a primitive military mindset. Send in the biggest warriors with the most powerful weapons and hope for the best. It would be doomed to failure, of course, but at least it would be spectacular failure. Ambassador Chen finished her communication and turned back to the assembled council. Earth Command has selected our representative unit. They'll arrive at Zirian Prime within 36 hours. Excellent, Admiral Zarketh said with satisfaction. How many warriors are you sending? What equipment will they carry? Chen's expression was unreadable. 1 soldier. Standard field equipment. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Even Kethvar felt his psychic shields flutter with shock. 1 soldier? Not a unit of soldiers, but a single individual? Ambassador, Vexteros said carefully. Perhaps there was a translation error. Did you say one soldier? That's correct, High Counselor. Earth is sending one soldier to complete this mission. Admiral Zarketh's laughter boomed through the chamber. This is beyond foolishness. This is suicide. You're sending one primitive human with obsolete weapons against 3,000 enhanced warriors in a fortified position. Those are Earth Command's orders, Chin replied calmly. Kethvar studied the human ambassador more carefully. Either she was an exceptional actress, or she genuinely believed that one human soldier could succeed where entire armies had failed. The possibility that she might be right never occurred to him. After all, what could one primitive human possibly accomplish that the combined might of multiple galactic civilizations could not? He was about to find out. The transport ship's silent approach dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zirian system, its modest size dwarfed by the Council observation vessels already in position. Admiral Zarketh watched from the bridge of his flagship as the human craft requested landing coordinates on the planet's surface. Magnify the human vessel, he ordered his tactical officer. The view screen zoomed in on the unremarkable transport. Have our sensors detected any special equipment? Advanced weapons? Stealth technology? Negative, Admiral, replied the officer, a young hegemony engineer whose cybernetic implants glowed softly in the dim bridge lighting. Standard human transport configuration. Basic defensive shields, conventional engines, minimal weapon systems. We're detecting one life form aboard. Zarketh shook his head. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Perhaps both. Open a channel to all observation ships. I want full sensor coverage of this operation. When this human soldier dies heroically, but uselessly, I want complete records for the Council archives. On the planet's surface, Warlord Thakmor stood atop the highest tower of his fortress, watching the human transport descend through Zirian Prime's thick atmosphere. The massive Kresh warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his bio-enhanced muscles rippling beneath armor that had been forged from the hull plating of defeated Council ships. His 4 arms ended in claws capable of rending steel, and his natural exoskeleton had been reinforced with stolen nanotechnology. One soldier, he rumbled to his lieutenant, Grakthar. The Softskins send one soldier against the Iron Fortress. Grakthar, himself a formidable warrior standing over 2 meters tall, checked his weapon systems nervously. Perhaps it's a trick, Warlord. Some kind of advanced android or battle robot. Irrelevant, Tokmur Grovlet. Whether it's flesh or metal, it will die like all the others. But I want this one taken alive if possible. I'm curious to see what manner of creature the humans consider their finest warrior. The transport landed in a clearing approximately 15 kilometers from the fortress, well within range of the Marauder's sensor grid. Thakmor's tactical display immediately lit up with data as the scouts began reporting. Single humanoid figure disembarking, came the first report. Standard bipedal configuration. Appears to be carrying primitive projectile weapons. Thakmor's mandibles clicked with amusement. Projectile weapons? These creatures still use chemical-based firearms. He'd faced Council forces armed with plasma rifles, particle beams, and quantum disruptors. The idea that someone would bring gunpowder weapons to a modern battlefield was almost insulting. Warlord, another scout reported, the target is moving oddly. Explain. It's not advancing on our position. It appears to be studying the terrain, moving in irregular patterns. Our motion sensors are having difficulty maintaining lock. Tokmur Frönet. Most attackers either charged the fortress directly, like the hegemony cyber soldiers, or attempted to establish a forward base like the Thorian assault mechs. This human seemed to be doing neither. Maintain surveillance. All units remain at defensive positions. Let this lone warrior come to us. 15 kilometers away, Sergeant Elena Vasquez lay motionless beneath a camouflage shelter she constructed from local vegetation and synthetic materials. The 34-year-old sniper had spent the first 6 hours after landing conducting reconnaissance, using her training to map the fortress's defensive positions, patrol patterns, and structural weaknesses. Elena was a member of the 75th Ranger Regiment's Long-Range Surveillance Detachment, one of Earth's most elite military units. She'd served in 3 different theaters, completed over 200 successful missions, and held the record for the longest confirmed kill shot in human military history. More importantly for this mission, she understood something that the galactic community had apparently forgotten: patience. Through her rifle's advanced scope, she studied the fortress that had defied multiple council armies. The Marauders had done impressive work converting the research station into a defensive position. Energy shields protected the main entrances, automated turrets covered the approaches, and sensor networks monitored every possible avenue of attack. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd built their fortress like galaxy warriors, thinking in terms of massive frontal assaults and concentrated firepower. They hadn't considered the possibility of a single individual with the patience to wait for the perfect opportunity. Elena activated her communication device with a subvocal command. Overwatch to command. Beginning reconnaissance phase. Estimate 72 hours for complete mission success. Back on the Council flagship, Admiral Zarketh received the intercepted transmission with disbelief. 72 hours? The human actually believes it can survive that long. He turned to his communications officer. Are we certain there's only one human down there? Confirmed, Admiral. Our sensors show a single heat signature. The human appears to have established some kind of concealed position approximately 15 kilometers from the target. 15 kilometers? Zarketh's expression shifted to confusion. What kind of weapons do these primitives use? At that range, even our best plasma rifles would be ineffective. The tactical officer consulted his data screens. According to our intelligence files, humans primarily use projectile weapons that propel metal slugs using chemical explosives. Effective range is typically under 2 kilometers. Then what is it doing out there? Nobody had an answer. For the next 18 hours, the Marauder scouts reported increasingly confused observations. The human had moved 3 times, always to positions that seemed to serve no tactical purpose. It wasn't approaching the fortress, wasn't establishing firing positions at reasonable ranges, and wasn't attempting to probe their defenses. Warlord Thakmor grew increasingly irritated. Find this creature and bring it to me. It's obviously lost or malfunctioning. 2 patrols were dispatched to locate and capture the human soldier. Both returned empty-handed, reporting that while they'd found signs of the human's presence, they couldn't locate its actual position. How does one small creature evade an entire patrol? Thakmor demanded. It appears to be using some form of advanced camouflage, Grakthar reported uncertainly. Our thermal sensors detected body heat signatures, but when we investigated, there was nothing there. Elena watched the search parties through her scope, counting their numbers and noting their equipment. The Marauders were skilled fighters, but they moved like hunters expecting to find prey that would run or hide conventionally. They checked obvious concealment locations, followed predictable search patterns, and made noise that would alert any target kilometers away. More importantly, they were becoming frustrated and careless. On the second day, Elena began Phase 2 of her mission. She'd identified 17 critical targets within the fortress. Warlord Thakmor himself, his senior lieutenants, the communications center, the power generators, and the command structure that held the entire organization together. The challenge wasn't hitting these targets. Elena's custom rifle, chambered for specialized armor-piercing rounds and equipped with advanced targeting systems, could engage targets accurately at ranges that would seem impossible to most galactic species. The challenge was hitting them in the right order, at the right time, to create maximum chaos and confusion. She waited for the perfect moment. It came during the evening shift change, when the fortress's routine created a brief window of opportunity. Elena had been motionless for 6 hours, her position carefully chosen to align with natural wind patterns and thermal conditions that would help conceal her muzzle flash and sound signature. Through her scope, she could see Warlord Thakmor standing on his command tower, backlit by the fortress's external lighting. Range, 2,847 meters. Wind, negligible. Target, stationary. Elena controlled her breathing, slowed her heart rate, and gently squeezed the trigger. The specially designed round traveled at over 900 meters per second, its tungsten core capable of penetrating advanced armor materials. It covered the distance to target in just over 3 seconds. Warlord Thakmor's head simply disappeared. The massive warrior's body stood upright for another full second before collapsing, sending shockwaves of confusion and terror through the fortress's defenders. Emergency alarms began blaring as marauders rushed to their fallen leader, trying to understand what had happened. Elena was already adjusting her position, acquiring her next target. Lieutenant Grakthar had rushed to the tower and was kneeling beside his commander's body, making himself a perfect target against the fortress's bright lighting. The second shot removed the marauders' second-in-command before anyone even understood they were under attack. On the Council observation ships, sensor operators struggled to make sense of what their instruments were telling them. The fortress's command structure had just suffered catastrophic casualties, but there was no sign of an attack. No energy weapons fire, no explosions, no advancing forces. Admiral, the tactical officer reported with barely controlled confusion. 2 high-priority targets in the fortress have been eliminated. But our sensors show no weapons discharge, no incoming fire, nothing that could explain the casualties. Admiral Zarketh stared at the tactical display showing the chaos erupting within the Marauder stronghold. Are you telling me that 2 enemy commanders just died spontaneously? Sir, I don't know what I'm telling you. 15 kilometers away, Elena Vasquez was methodically working her way through her target list, each shot carefully timed to maximize psychological impact on the surviving marauders. She wasn't just eliminating their leadership. She was destroying their understanding of how warfare was supposed to work. By dawn of the 3rd day, the galactic community would learn exactly what one properly trained human soldier could accomplish. By the dawn of the 3rd day, the Iron Fortress had become a monument to fear and confusion. Of the 17 senior Marauder commanders, 12 were dead. The power grid had suffered mysterious failures as critical components simply stopped functioning after invisible impacts. The communications array lay in ruins, its primary transmitters destroyed by precision strikes that no one had seen coming. Subcommander Vectar, now the highest-ranking survivor among 3,000 terrified warriors, stood in the fortress's main command center staring at tactical displays that made no sense. His forces were trapped inside their own stronghold, afraid to venture outside or even approach windows and observation points. Report, he demanded from his communications officer, a young marauder whose hands shook as he operated the backup systems. Sir, we've lost contact with observation posts 7, 12, and 15. Patrol teams 4 and 6 have not reported in for 8 hours. The outer perimeter sensors are showing anomalies. What kind of anomalies? Things that shouldn't be possible, sir. Equipment failures that appear to be caused by physical impact, but no energy signatures indicating weapons fire. It's as if invisible projectiles are striking our installations. Vectar's 4 eyes narrowed. He'd risen through the Marauder ranks by being smarter and more adaptable than his peers, and he was beginning to understand what they were facing. Send word to all remaining units. No one approaches windows, observation ports, or exposed positions. Whatever's killing us, it's doing it from extreme range. But, sir, that's impossible. No weapon system has effective range beyond 2 kilometers. The nearest terrain that could conceal an attacker is over 15 kilometers away. Then, we're facing something impossible, Vectar replied grimly, and it's systematically destroying us. Elena Vasquez had spent the night moving through her carefully planned sequence of positions, each one selected to provide optimal fields of fire while maintaining concealment. Her ammunition was limited, but she didn't need many rounds when each shot eliminated a critical target or piece of equipment. The psychological warfare was proving even more effective than the physical damage. The Marauders were elite fighters bred for combat and enhanced with stolen technology, but they'd never face an enemy they couldn't see, hear, or understand. Their morale was collapsing faster than their command structure. Through her scope, Elena observed the fortress's reduced activity. Guards huddled behind cover instead of maintaining proper watch positions. Patrol schedules had become erratic as commanders became afraid to send soldiers outside. The entire defensive posture had shifted from aggressive to paranoid. It was time for the final phase. Elena activated her communication device. Overwatch to Iron Fortress. Do you copy? In the command center, the backup communications officer nearly fell from his station as an unknown voice came through on the Marauder command frequency. Sir, incoming transmission on a secure channel. Vector grabbed the communicator. Who is this? How did you access our communications? This is Sergeant Elena Vasquez, United Earth Alliance Rangers. I'm a soldier your forces have been trying to locate for the past 2 days. Silence filled the command center. Every Marauder present stared at the communications device as if it might explode. One soldier, Vector finally managed. You're telling me that one human soldier has done all this? Affirmative. I've eliminated your command structure, neutralized your defensive systems, and demonstrated that your position is no longer tenable. I'm prepared to offer terms for your surrender. Vector's combat instincts warred with the evidence before his eyes. Surrender? We are 3,000 strong. You are one primitive creature with obsolete weapons. Subcommander Vector, Elena replied calmly, and Vector felt his blood freeze at the casual use of his name and rank. I know your current position, your defensive capabilities, and the exact number of fighters under your command. I've been observing your fortress for 60 hours. Would you like me to demonstrate my capabilities further? You're bluffing. No single individual could. Elena's rifle spoke once more across the distance. In the command center, the main tactical display exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. The tungsten round had traveled through a narrow window across the room and struck the display's central processor with surgical precision. No one in the room had heard the shot. There had been no warning, no energy signature, nothing to indicate incoming fire. The display had simply died, destroyed by an attack that had originated from beyond the range of any known weapon system. Your tactical display is now non-functional. Elena's voice continued conversationally. Would you like me to target your backup systems as well? Or perhaps I should return to eliminating personnel? Vector looked around the command center at his terrified subordinates. These were warriors who had faced Council armies without flinching, but now they cowered behind furniture, afraid to stand near anything that might make them visible from outside. What are your terms? Complete surrender of all Marauder forces on Zirian Prime. Your personnel will be taken into Council custody for processing. Your equipment and facilities will be secured. No one else has to die. And if we refuse, then I continue my mission. I have sufficient ammunition and time to eliminate every member of your command staff, destroy every critical system in your fortress, and wait for your organization to collapse into chaos. Your choice, Subcommander. Aboard Admiral Zarketh's flagship, the bridge crew watched the unfolding surrender negotiations with stunned disbelief. The sensor readings from the planet's surface told an impossible story. One human soldier had somehow defeated a force that had repelled multiple Council armies. Admiral, his communications officer reported, voice barely steady. We're receiving a transmission from the human soldier. Put it through. Elena's calm voice filled the bridge. This is Sergeant Vasquez to Council Observation Fleet. The Marauder force on Zirian Prime is surrendering unconditionally. I'll need transport for approximately 2,800 prisoners and security teams to process capture equipment. Admiral Zarketh found his voice after several long seconds. Sergeant, how? How is this possible? Standard long-range reconnaissance and precision engagement tactics, Admiral. Nothing particularly complex. But the range our intelligence indicates human weapons can't engage targets effectively beyond 2 kilometers. Your intelligence was incomplete, sir. Elite human units train for engagements at extended ranges using specialized equipment and techniques. Most galactic species focus on close-range, high-intensity combat. We've developed methods for patience-based warfare. The Admiral stared at his tactical displays, showing the fortress where marauder warriors were beginning to emerge with their hands raised. Patience-based warfare? Yes, sir. The willingness to wait days or weeks for the perfect opportunity, to engage from ranges where return fire is impossible, and to systematically dismantle enemy capabilities rather than engaging in direct confrontation. It's not particularly honorable or exciting, but it's highly effective. 2 days later, the Galactic Council reconvened in their crystalline chamber. The holographic displays showed footage from Zirian Prime. Long lines of surrendering marauders being processed by Council security forces, the fortress being systematically searched and secured, and one unremarkable human soldier calmly cleaning her rifle while surrounded by the evidence of her impossible victory. High Counselor Vextara called for order as the assembled representatives buzzed with excited conversation. The human demonstration has been conclusive. Ambassador Chun, the Council wishes to understand. Is this soldier representative of human military capabilities? Ambassador Chun, who had maintained perfect diplomatic composure throughout the mission, allowed herself a small smile. Sergeant Vasquez is an elite specialist, High Counselor. She represents the pinnacle of human military training. However, Earth maintains several thousand soldiers of similar caliber across our various special operations units. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Admiral Zarketh leaned forward in his biomechanical throne. Several thousand? You have thousands of soldiers capable of this level of performance. Our military philosophy emphasizes individual excellence within team structures, Chen explained. While we may lack the advanced technology of other Council species, we've developed training methodologies that maximize the potential of individual soldiers. Sergeant Vasquez's performance, while exceptional, is not unique among human special forces. Kethvar of the Zalani Empire spoke up, his psychic voice carrying undertones of respect that hadn't been there during the previous session. Ambassador, your soldier defeated an enemy force that had repelled armies from multiple Council species. She did this alone, using what we considered primitive technology against opponents with superior numbers and advanced equipment. How do we reconcile this with our understanding of modern warfare? Chen nodded respectfully. With respect, High Counselor and esteemed representatives, perhaps the issue is that your understanding of modern warfare has become standardized. When every species fights the same way, using similar technology and tactics, warfare becomes predictable. Humanity brings a different perspective, developed through centuries of conflict on a world where survival required constant adaptation and innovation. You're suggesting, Vextaras said slowly, that humanity's primitive technology and individual-focused tactics are actually advantages? I'm suggesting that diversity of approach strengthens any alliance. The Marauders had defeated Council forces because they understood how Council forces fight. They had no preparation for an enemy that would wait 3 days for the perfect shot, that would engage from impossible ranges, or that would systematically dismantle their organization one precise action at a time. Admiral Zarketh's expression had shifted from skepticism to something approaching awe. This patience-based warfare, could human specialists teach these techniques to Council forces? If humanity were granted membership in the Council, Chen replied diplomatically, we would be honored to share our tactical knowledge and learn from the expertise of other member species. We believe that combination of human adaptability with galactic technology could prove quite effective. The debate that followed was markedly different from their previous session. Instead of questioning whether humanity deserved membership, the Council found themselves discussing how quickly the integration process could be completed. The footage from Zirian Prime had fundamentally changed their understanding of what constituted military effectiveness. When the vote was called, the result was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council, along with an immediate invitation to establish joint training programs with Council military forces. As the session concluded, Kethvar approached Ambassador Chun. "Your soldier, Sergeant Vasquez. What will happen to her now?" Chun smiled. "She's already returned to Earth for debriefing. Then, she'll probably go back to training new recruits and planning for the next impossible mission. That's what elite soldiers do. The galaxy owes her a considerable debt. The galaxy owes her the chance to serve something larger than herself," Chun corrected. "That's all any human soldier really wants." As the representatives filed out of the chamber, word was already spreading through the Galactic Communications Network. The story of one human soldier who had defeated an army would become legend. But, more importantly, it marked the beginning of a new era in galactic military thinking. The Council had learned that sometimes the most primitive approach was also the most sophisticated, that patience could be more powerful than technology, and that the individual warrior, properly trained and motivated, could indeed change the course of a battle. They had met humanity's elite, and they would never again make the mistake of underestimating the species that had turned warfare into an art form.